Thanks for downloading another segment from the Best of the Classic Metal Show. The Classic Metal Show is heard live on Saturdays from 9 p.m. to 3 a.m. Eastern, exclusively at www.theclassicmetalshow.com. And now here's another piece of Classic Metal Show history on the Best of the Classic Metal Show.
The Classic Metal Show.
I got a text from Mr. Dokken. He says to go ahead and give him a call.
All right, go ahead.
So I will give him a ring jingle here, and we'll talk to Mr. Dokken. If you weren't aware of it, this week the Dokken commercials for Norton Antivirus hit the web.
Right. Yeah, they're great. They're funny.
And they're funny.
They're really good. Don just looks all angry and mean at the beginning.
Yeah, he's a badass, but
yeah.
Calling him up here.
All right.
Come on, pick up the phone.
You just texted him too, right?
Yeah.
Hello. Please leave a message. Hey.
Hey, Don.
Hey.
You're live on the Classic Metal Show with us.
How you doing?
I'm doing. How you doing?
I'm staying out of the madness in Hollywood tonight. It's going kind of nuts. They got Sunset Boulevard all blocked off, and Ozzy's playing, and Korn, and pretty wild.
Yeah, what are they calling that? The Sunset Strip Fest or something like that?
Yeah, they just blocked off, everything from the Whiskey to the Rainbow.
Nice.
Or the Key Club.
And they didn't ask you to come down there and perform?
Yeah, they did, but I'm a hermit.
Okay. Well, Don, the reason we wanted to have you on the show, believe it or not, we haven't had you call into the show since last May when Lightning Strikes Again was released. It's been that long.
Uh-huh.
And you guys obviously have been busy with, I know that you've been working on this Greatest Hits 2 release, which is basically driving you nuts.
Yeah, I think I changed the name. I'm going to change the name to the Eternal Hits, Eternal Recording Volume 2. I'm trying to stay motivated. Tomorrow I'm going in to try to quote unquote finish it. I don't want to say it because I've said it 10 times, but boy, I'm way over this thing.
Well, I know when I saw you about a month ago, you thought you were going to finish it that week. And, well, here it is a month later, and you're still just toiling away at it.
It's pretty depressing when you pull the tapes up and they say, some of the recording tracks say 05. I mean, that's a long time.
It is a long time.
So we started it, and then we did our new album, so that killed everything. So we put they said they didn't want the record out, they put a restriction for 3 years. So here I did an album in 05, and I pull the tracks back up, and I've got a clue what's going on, where anything is, and, it's just different.
Sure.
And, we've been on tour, for so long, and we're flying on these weekend warrior things, flying Friday, Saturday, Sunday, come home, and then I got to let the boys whine, and I got to change their diapers and all that stuff. That takes a couple of days. Got to powder their bottoms and all that stuff. That takes a little while. And then we go back in the studio. So.
Right.
But yeah, it's been stressful. So I'm home, and I said I'm somehow going to try to, like today. I was supposed to be in the studio today. It's always like, hey, Ozzy's playing down on the Sunset Strip, because they got a new guitar player. And it's a kid we know from Greece.
Yeah, Gus G from Firewind.
Right, Gus. So this is like kind of his first show kind of thing. And they're playing on the Strip, and it's $40, and I don't know what that gets you onto the street or what. But I'm sure it must be. They said there's like 20 bands playing at once.
Oh,
there's the Roxy, the Whiskey, the Cleat Cloud. I'm sure the Rainbow. There's all kinds of wacky stuff going on there.
Sure.
And I just thought, if I go down there, because I only live 10 minutes away, I'm going to get in trouble for sure. So I didn't go. It was like, my texting's been going off all day, and they're like, go, and you go, and you go. I go, I'm just going to get in trouble.
Right.
And then I just don't want, and I don't want to get in trouble.
Sure.
I hate that. When you start drinking at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and Look, all I know is when you wake up with somebody and their name is Bertha, it's not a good sign.
Well, Don,
Bertha, huh?
yeah, well, Don, obviously the franchise Dokken made pretty big news this week all over the internet with your new commercials for the Norton antivirus.
Yeah, all the PETA people are going to be after us now.
Yeah, sure.
PETA, Dokken, they're chicken haters. They're going to ban us. They're going to ban our records and start smashing that we're from PETA,
Right.
Now I have to go out and buy a feather jacket.
Well, how did, I know, you and I have talked about this, but being that you're on our program now, how did that come about that you even landed that gig and, all that good
stuff? I just fell in
stuff?
my lap, that was totally like a fluke. I mean, we were on the road, and like, where I live, I have two houses, where I live on my property, and one of them's like a crash house for directors and producers and stuff. They rent it out. And one of the directors was going to do this commercial, and it was supposed to be with Styx. And apparently at the last minute they pulled out, and like they were on a crunch. And I just happened to be home pulling in the driveway, for coming off one of our shows. And at this company he works for, HSI, they do all these commercials and stuff. And he said, "Hey, I'm staying at Don Dokken's place, and I think he's home. I saw his car in the driveway." And they asked me if I wanted to do it, and I said, "When are you filming? We're kind of busy." And they said on a Monday, and this was like on a Thursday. And I said, "Yeah, I'm off Monday. We leave Tuesday to go back on the road." So we just whipped in there, and I said, well, what do you want me to do? I mean, we can't prepare. He goes, "Oh, you just need to, it's just a dead chicken." And I didn't have a clue. I go, "What do you mean a chicken? A chicken? A live chicken?" And they go, "No, it's a dead chicken, and you're a virus." And they go, "It's a metaphorical commercial." And I said, "Hey, I don't care. That's fine." So I went down and did it. And they pay ungodly amounts of money, and you just stand there and look mad at the chicken. And I guess there's 3 different versions, and there's one where we're eating the chicken. Then you have the pelvic thrust ending where he explodes.
And then the one where he pulls the knife on you.
Switchblade and tries to shank me, and I say, "Bro, this isn't over yet."
Yeah, sure.
West Side Story.
Right.
They were bummed at the end of the day. They really wanted to blow the chicken up. Really wanted to blow it up. And they wanted to shove like dry ice up its butt. But that's an uncontrolled. And so the police department had to come and everything. And I'm going, "Just to blow up a chicken?" And they go, "Yeah, well, dry ice, you don't know what's going to happen. It's an uncontrolled explosion. It's against the law." And at the end of the day, the bottom line is they wouldn't let him blow up the chicken and stick anything up its butt. So they took the chicken outside and blew him up.
Nice.
Just because the pyro guy was there. He goes, "Look, I got his butt all packed, and least we should do is see what happens."
Nice.
So I guess the one in the commercial was CGI'd.
Well, where is that big? What is that? A blimp hangar?
It is the largest wooden structure in the world.
Where is that?
Long Beach Airport.
Oh, really? Cool.
And that there's several hangars. That one happens to hold, I think, 4 or 5 at a time. They were built during World War II. When the war started, they built those to protect for observation. They had to build these huge blimps.
Right.
But that one, yeah, as you can see, it's just stupid big. I mean, it's gigantic.
Sure.
It's like a couple football fields long. It holds 4. I think it holds 4 blimps end to end. And that's just trivia. It's the largest wooden structure in the world. And how they curved it, but the reason it wouldn't blow up anything is because the roof has all these old glass panes and glass windows, and they thought the thing was so huge it'd be like a big concussion cap. It was awful echoey in there. And the guy that did the chicken, when he stood up, and the switchblade, all that was one of the puppeteers that did that South Park movie, World League.
Right.
Baka Baka Sherpa Sherpa and all that stuff.
Right.
And he goes, "Yeah." I said, "What'd you do?" He goes, "Oh, I was Kill Im Jong," and I go, "Oh." So he was. They had real chickens that we looked at, then they had the puppet chicken when he stood up with the switchblade and everything. So that was fun, the puppeteer, and we did a whole bunch of different endings, like 8 or 9 of them, but that's what we ended up they ended up using.
Sure.
Well, I guess it must. I don't know. I guess a lot of people see. I've gotten emails from Japan and Germany and Greece and. Hey, I saw your chicken commercial.
Well, I know, when it became available, I know I emailed you right away, and
off about a day.
And Chris put it out on all the music news wires right away.
Right.
Good.
And so.
Cool. Thanks, Chris.
And then I Googled it here. I've been Googling it every day just to see who's covering it. And at first, it was only like Yahoo Video had it.
Right.
And now
exactly.
today, there's like over 50 sites reporting this thing now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's really weird. So I just type in Dokken Norton antivirus, and just pages just come up.
Good advertising for Dokken. And we did it tongue in cheek. I didn't want to look like Danger Kitty, but I said but you can't be too serious when you're up against a dead chicken. So.
Right. Nice.
It's metaphorical, and I thought the commercial was fun. It was fun for us, and we just hung out at the Blimp all day, and the people were really super nice. We had awesome catering, and actually it was a real nice day, and it was an easy shoot, as you can see, all you have to do is stand there. Stand there, now look at the chicken, and here's the director. Now look away from the chicken. Now we're bringing the chicken. All right, and the chicken was actually like cooked and warm and everything, and after a couple of takes, the director's like, well, we need more chicken legs. All we have is breast. And then looking at us, we're like, we ate all the chicken legs. Then after a while, you start doing the spit bucket. You've had like 10 takes of eating chicken, you start spitting it out. So, but yeah, it was all lots of fun, and keeps the boys' house payments paid, and so I'm happy. It was fun, and I didn't realize it'd get so much. It was spread like wildfire like that. I mean, people from all over the place have seen that thing.
Sure. Well,
so they're thinking about going to TV. They said they don't know yet. They're doing internet right now, and it might end up on television.
Well, hey, good for you if it does.
That's why they filmed. They didn't film that in high def for video. They filmed it in 35 millimeter. Yeah, and then there's the other one. We were there with that guy Kimbo, the UFC fighter.
Right.
And he was there just wrapping up his shoot. I thought his was funny too. The little caterpillar cutting off his arm.
Yeah, it gets his arm lasered off.
By the cute little caterpillar.
Right.
So he was an interesting guy. He's even bigger in person. We had to share the same dressing room, and we came in. He was just wrapping up. That guy's big, man. He's got big.
You wouldn't fight him, Don?
Huh?
You wouldn't fight him?
No. Not at my fragile age. I'll fight him in a wheelchair. But he's big, but I don't know if he's a real. I mean, I saw some video of him street fighting. I don't know if that guy's any good or not. He's just a street fighter, but some of these guys are mixed martial arts. Just because you're big and bad doesn't. You have to know grappling and look. Hoist Gracie was a 120-pound, 5'5" guy. And he took down everybody.
Yeah, well, Kimbo didn't have much luck either. He did like one professional fight that he won, but in his second professional MMA fight, he just got destroyed. So
he got destroyed.
Yeah, in like 9 seconds or something. He got knocked the hell out.
Oh, see, I didn't know. That's what I thought. Cause I saw the street fighting one, fighting some guy, and I thought, I'm watching him fight, and I'm like, he doesn't really know he's just mad and big and strong. There's more to fighting than that in martial arts. I learned that the hard way.
Oh, yeah.
But, you look at Hoist Gracie, who was a little guy, and he won the first 3 back in the day when they first started the UFC. And these big, gnarly, buff dudes came out there and thought, I'm going to take this guy out. And old little Hoist would just go shoot him, get him on the ground, man, and just get him in a leg lock, and it was all over. And he's using that Brazilian-style jiu-jitsu. That's why Brazilian style has gotten so popular, because of the Gracie brothers and the Machadas.
Right.
But so he got his butt kicked, huh? He got a gold grill knocked out.
He came in the ring, hit the guy that he was fighting like 1 or 2 times, and then just got laid down on the mat. It was that quick.
Really?
Like 9 seconds or 15 seconds or something.
I kind of saw that coming.
Yeah.
When I saw the little clip of his street fight.
Sure.
It just looked like a brawl. He probably fights better when he's drunk. You don't feel it when they hit you,
Right.
You just bounce when you hit the pavement. Well, yeah, I saw I guess maybe that was, that's a short career. Probably for the best, The don't get brain damage that way.
Well, Don,
getting this album wrapped up, I hope so. It's the biggest thing was not the Dokken songs. Well, the Dokken songs were hard because I'm trying to keep them as exact as people remember them. But every time I put on the original version, I giggle because it sounds like I'm sealing. It sounds like I had a balloon of helium and I sucked on it and then I sang the song. I mean, the stuff is so high and so off the charts. It was back in those days when Halford and everybody, was just singing way off the map, and I can't do that anymore. So they're kind of like creative license versions. We kept them as true as we could to the original versions. And then I like the cover songs we did. I think they came out really cool.
Well, Don, when what is the reason for doing a re-record of the original material? I know Foreigner did it. I know Journey has done it. Now you guys are releasing one. What is the main?
Bon Jovi, Leper, they've all done it.
Yeah. What is the reason behind that? What is the thought behind that?
Well, that's a really simple answer. When we all signed those deals back in the day in the 80s, as everybody's ever read any biographies about, you look at the bands in the 60s that, signed record deals and got screwed over completely.
Right.
Nobody knew about Royal. I remember when I worked with Drake Levin from Paul Bear and the Raiders. He had gold records, and he told me stories about hanging out with Hendrix and this and that, and I said, wow, man, you got all these gold records, and you just have this little music shop, and where's all your money? And he goes, they didn't give us money. They gave us limousines and hotel rooms and spoiled us rotten, put a contract in front of our face when we were on acid, and we'd sign it, and it basically said, the producer gets 50%, the label gets 40%, at least 10% divided between the other guys, before taxes, before accountants, before manager. And you literally, from these contracts, you ended up getting nothing. Look at that was that chick band that filed bankruptcy and they'd sold like 20 million records. I can't remember them. What was that? Spice, right?
Oh, yeah, the Spice Girls?
Yeah, they filed bankruptcy. Like just a couple of years ago, and they'd sold 5 years ago, and they'd sold 20 million records?
Right.
Same deal. Bunch of young girls. They're really not singers. They're just performers and dancers, except for, I guess, Beyonce was in that. And they sign these record deals where you get, literally, you sell 1 million records, and you get like $100,000. And then, so they got 9 million, you got 100,000, 30% goes to taxes, now you're down to 70, and you divide it up between 4 people, and you're down to 15. 17.5, something,
Right.
You can't live on that. And that story's been going on forever. So same problem with Dokken. Elektra owns what they call, technically, they own our songs in perpetuity, it's called. That means forever, 100 years after you're dead. They own everything forever and ever and ever. But the law says, in the publishing world, after 10 years, you can remake the songs, re-record them, and then you own them. You own the royalties. So let's say we sold 1 million records back in the day. We made it was $10 million. We made $1 million. Now, if you sold 100,000 records and we own everything, we'd make $1 million.
Nice.
Isn't that weird? Because you get, instead of getting $1 for every $10, you get $9 for every $10.
Right.
So even though the record industry's shot and you sell a lot less records, you at least make money.
Sure.
So that's why all these bands do remakes, because we all in the 80s signed those contracts. About the only band that got lucky, I think, by a fluke was Motley Crue, because Nicky's a good businessman, and they were on Elektra, and he pissed off the president of the record company, and I can't really say why, but he used a word that is a no-no word, and offended the record company president, and she kicked him off the label, and somehow they got all their masters back.
Wow.
They negotiated to get all their albums back, so I hear that Motley owns all their masters. How they pulled that off, don't know. Smart guy.
Sometimes it pays to be politically incorrect.
Exactly. I think it wasn't an accident. What's the worst thing I can do to try to get this person to kick me off the label?
Right.
And he did it, and it worked.
Wow.
So, but, you know, Elektra owns our stuff, which is kind of a bummer. I mean, Elektra doesn't even exist anymore. They're a non-existent label. So we're under Warner Brothers. We still get our royalties the rest of our life. But, yeah, I've seen some of the money that was spread out in those 80s, man, and everybody involved with Dokken, from managers to accountants, everybody got money on the gross, which means, you know, as everybody knows, that's before our bus expenses, hotels, equipment, crew, salary. You know, we made $1, and they took their money right at the top, which was probably about, if you add up everybody involved, it was about 70%.
Wow.
And we got 30%, divided 4 ways, and before we take that money, we had to pay for our bus, our crew, our hotels, or everything. So we were making nothing.
Sure.
I remember Breaking the Chains, you know, was our first, you know, radio hit, and we came off that tour, huge arena tour, with Oyster Cult and Alba Nova, and the label told us, you guys did really good, you're only $500,000 in debt, and our manager put us on salary, $800 a month each.
Wow.
$800 a month, that's all we had. We had no money. After touring arenas, playing clubs, doing the record, we had nada. And I went, what's wrong with this picture? Now, in '89, we broke up. I decided not to continue because George was making me nuts. You know, that's when we had the power to renegotiate and, you know, get, you know, much bigger piece of the pie. But the band broke up. So
Sure.
So that's the reason why we're doing the greatest hits now these years later, because at least we can make a little money to pay for diapers.
Right. Well, speaking of George, and I don't know if you will comment on this or not, what's the story with this lynch mob Dokken thing? Of course, it's all over the internet, big buzz there.
Don't get it. George has been emailing me. I went and saw him last week, or about 2 weeks ago. He was playing a little club down at Redondo Beach, and I happened to be in the studio working on the eternal recording of the greatest hits. And they said, oh, George is playing on the street. I said, what the hell, let's go down and check him out. So me and my engineer, Darian, went down there, but it wasn't Lynch Mob. It just said George Lynch and the Souls of We, which I don't know what that is. And it's kind of like Tool or Soundgarden slowed down to 16. You know, it's like real don, do, 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 do. You know, people, they handed out razor blades, people were killing themselves in mass, you know. It was kind of like Jonestown, you know, or something.
Don't drink the Kool-Aid.
Yeah, it was dark. It was really dark. I was talking to his wife, Danica, and she asked what I thought, and I just said, the truth, it's dark. She goes, you really think so? And I'm like, are you kidding me? I mean, if anybody's seen the Souls of We, they know what I'm talking about.
Right.
Not that it was bad, it's just too dark for me. You know, it's like dark and slow and not my type of, it's not my cup of tea.
Sure.
So they've been playing all over the place, but and George was out of tune, so I walked on stage for a second and told him to tune his guitar. And he turned around and I don't think he recognized me. He looked at me and he goes, what? And I said, dude, you need to tune your guitar. And then he goes, oh, Don. He goes, oh, no, you don't. He goes, you're not pulling a Bob Hope and doing a walk on. And that's what he said. You're not pulling no Bob Hope on me, man. And I said, yeah, I'm just telling you, you need to tune that puppy. And I walked off stage.
Right.
Because it was really, they were having a lot of technical problems.
Nice.
So, which is so surprising. So he said, you know, how about doing a Dokken Lynch Mob tour? And, you know, I can come on stage at the end if you want and play a couple songs and, you know, and in other words, kind of test the waters for maybe a Dokken reunion. Because, you know, I said, you know, well, I'm not, as everybody knows, I'm not up for a reunion because I don't think we'd survive it. Personality differences. But, so that's all that happened. I just said, you know, have your manager, you know, give me an offer and how many shows, and we're going to be in Japan in October, playing the big festival with Judas Priest and Megadeth and Motley Crue. I think a bunch of bands are playing at the Loud Park Festival in Japan, and he's going to be there too. And I said, well, you know, it's not me, and I wish people would get it. I said, George, you understand, I'm not the problem about, you know, playing even with Lynch Mob. It's Mick. You need to talk to Mick. because Mick is dead set against it. And Mick, as you know Mick, once he makes up his mind, you can't change it.
Right.
All these decades about George, Don fighting, we don't get along. I get along fine with George. It's the past. It happened 10 years ago. We got back together in 95. I'm over it. And George seems a lot mellower than he used to be, and he's had some health problems, and he seems very mellow. And I told him, look, Lynch Mob Dokken, it might be an interesting package. You come on stage, do a couple songs. But I threw it at Mick, and Mick said, no way, Jose. So George said in Japan, he's going to hunt down Mick, and they're going to try to work out their differences.
So Don, I don't want you to actually come out and say what's going on necessarily, but is the problem between those two, is that Dokken related or is it Lynch Mob related?
Lynch Mob related.
Okay.
So that goes back a ways.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, kind of basically, from what I know, I don't know that much, but the problems that George and I encountered back in the day, those same problems carried out over into the Lynch Mob. And that's why Mick came back in the Dokken.
Right.
So as Mick told me, he said, "Yeah, I went with George because I thought you were the nut job in Dokken, so I stayed with Lynch. And then after playing with Lynch for a couple of years, I think he said to me in so many words that basically you're both nut jobs, but you're the lesser of the two nut jobs.
you're the lesser of the two evils, Don.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what that song on Dysfunctional's about? The lesser of two evils? Is that about you?
Yeah, it's about all of us. It's about everybody in the world. It's about ex-girlfriends and crazy musicians, and I don't know what is it about all the genius guitar players. I can name the list is so long of all the great guitar players, and it seems like they all equal their prowess and their technical abilities comes with all these problems. Look at Michael Schenker, Yngwie Malmsteen, Eddie Van Halen, George Lynch, Zakk Wylde, Hendrix. The list just goes on and on and on and on of the great guitar players that seem, when you meet them, they're just like super, super, super temperamental, Or
unlike singers that are never like that.
Yeah, we're the nice guys. Oh yeah, well, there's plenty of that too.
Yeah.
I can name, I played with a few singers in the last year that were my heroes, and I'm not going to say who because there's no point in it, but I played with some famous bands in Europe and America that the singers reinvented the word prima donna. Just off the hook. Nice. And I'm thinking, God, we're all getting up there and getting older, and and people are still, have these 40-page contracts about what they have to have in their dressing room, and my candles. I said French vanilla. These candles are vanilla scented. I'm not going to put up with this, and just stupid shit,
Sure.
And so I think the promoters pretty much like Dokken because we're like, Mick will have his Jim Beam. We want potato chips and salsa, a can of cashews. Come on, you've been in our dressing room.
Yeah, it's pretty stripped down. It's just some Jack and Coke, some mixed nuts, some ice, and maybe some chips, and maybe a pizza after the gig.
Oh yeah, and the pizza after the show. And that's us.
That's it.
The promoters love me. A couple times, we showed up and they got the wrong contract from like back in the day, and I had laughed. I walk in the dressing room, I go, "What the hell's all this food here? Are we having a party or something?"
Sure.
There's deli trays and shrimp and chicken and ham and turkey, and I go, "What is all this stuff?" He goes, "Well, your manager sent the contract for your writer." I said, "Oh man, that's from the '80s, dude. What the hell are we gonna do with all this food?"
Right.
Give it to the homeless. I go,
sure.
"This is ridiculous."
I've actually seen you guys wrap up the food and take it to the homeless on your way out of town.
Yep.
Really? Seriously?
I said, I go, give this to people that, like that one gig I think you're at. I told this girl, I said, take all this ham, and there was like 10 10 pounds of meat and bread and all this food. And I told the boy, I said, wrap this stuff up and let's go give it to somebody that needs it.
I think we were pulling out of Cleveland one time on the bus, and you had the bus driver take the route down there so you could just drop the food off to the homeless.
Drop it off at the shelter, yeah. No, here. Early Thanksgiving, because it's so, you feel so guilty with all this food, and what we're supposed to do is toss it in the trash.
Sure.
I mean, come on. There's soup kitchens, and especially like in Cleveland and Columbus, there's just a lot of homeless people.
Right.
And a lot of shelters, and I said, just go drop it off and let them eat it.
Right.
So those days are gone for us. I'm quite happy with just the cashews. We're going to pull him off the contract now. That was for Barry. So Barry had a cashew thing. Because we always had mixed nuts, and he'd sit there all day long, and we'd pick through the nuts and just pick the cashews out.
Nice.
And I said, you've been licking your fingers and playing your bass, and you stick in your hand those nuts all day. I don't want to eat them. So he finally changed it to just pure cashews. But now that he's had to leave the band, I mean, he got married, and I haven't heard from him, but his baby should have popped out by now. She was 6 months pregnant with our last show with him, and that was in June. So 6, 7, 8, 9, June, July, August. She's got to be. She's either had the baby or having it any day now.
Right.
Because she was due in September.
Sure.
So he's going to be a father, which should be very interesting, how he's going to tour with a child on board and a wife that doesn't allow him to play or go on tour without her.
Oh, boy. Well, speaking of touring there, Don, we just spoke to Mark Torian of the Bullet Boys, and he says you guys got a 45-date tour with them.
Really?
That's what he said.
Awesome. That's great.
Are you going to be there?
I'll come by. I'll stop by. I'll come by. I'll hang up our banner. When I heard that, I don't. Where's this shit come from?
I don't know. He just said it. He said we've got a 45-date tour with Dokken.
Playing the House of Blues all over the place.
Okay. I don't know what to say about that. I see Mark about 2 or 3 times during the summer. They play these festivals, and they'll be playing there. And I always get the same story, that his record's out, and it's on 200 stations, and it's the greatest record they've ever done, and, same story. And he's a self-promoter, and that's fine. That's cool. That's what you're supposed to do. But as far as when I hear these things, I go, I know nothing about it. There's nothing in the works. Well, back to the Lynch Mob Dokken thing.
Sure.
He's been emailing me saying I'm changing agents and I'm going back with this agency and they're really interested in booking this tour. And his manager emails me and says, okay, we're going to do this tour. And I'm like, and all I'm saying is, okay, show me the dates, how much money, and I'll give you a yay or a nay.
Right.
And that's as far as it goes. It was like the Dokken reunion 2 years ago. It was all over the internet. We're getting back together. There's just someone forgot to call me. It's so ridiculous.
Sure.
Well, maybe that's where the reunion tour is happening this year, Don. Maybe it's a reunion or the Dokken reunion with Lynch Mob, and opening is the Bullet Boys, and you're just not on board yet.
I'm just not on board yet. That's right. But I don't know anything about this stuff. I hear these rumors. I don't get on the internet and listen to stuff. Like people call me and tell me, you're doing this, you're doing that, you're doing this. I go, okay. But I have an answering machine. I haven't heard any of those messages.
Right.
So I just go forward and ignore all that, and we book our shows and we go out and play, and I'm just concentrating on getting this 4-year greatest hits record done. The record company, Cleopatra, is just not real happy with me, I'm sure.
Sure.
Like they said, if we would have known that Walmart was going to stop carrying CDs, only carry special product and box sets. I mean, where are you going to sell records these days? If they would have known there's no place to sell records when they gave us that deal, a year and a half ago, they probably wouldn't have gave us the deal.
Right.
Our own label, Rhino, we were on a couple of years. They passed on the greatest hits.
Well, I know actually Cleopatra actually does get their product in the Best Buy, and that's about the only place I know to buy CDs anymore. That's right. You can get into Best Buy. And God forbid they end up like Circuit City. Yeah, hopefully that doesn't happen. If they go under, I think I predict in 4 years it's going to be over. If you want a song, you go on iTunes, you pay your $1.20 and you buy it.
Right.
No one's going to buy the 12 tracks. They'll buy the song that they're hearing on the radio at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'd love to see the record sales on the last Metallica album. Or who else is an iconic band that's huge?
AC/DC.
AC/DC. I mean, none of these bands sell millions of records anymore.
Well, Metallica and AC/DC, strangely enough, I think AC/DC sold 3 million in hard copy CDs, and Metallica topped over 2 million in their CDs.
Really?
Yeah, really.
But they're the biggest bands in the world.
Yeah, but these are bands that sold, the Black Album sold, what, 30 million?
It's up there.
Yeah, I mean, but that's kind of, you say, wow, that's awesome, but at the same time, you go, biggest band in the world, Metallica, sold 2 million. Dokken in the 80s, we used to sell 1 million in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And that was like, you guys are in the top 20. Now you sell 100,000 records, you're number one.
Sure.
We're living in a Hannah Montana land.
Yeah, it's a shame.
Miley Cyrus, she's taken over the world.
It's
Disney, man. It's all bubblegum, and it's Hannah Montana and all these. And I know, see, when I watch late night shows now, I love Craig Ferguson. That's like my going to bed show, because I just think he's funny as shit, and I like his humor, and I like he's just real and on the fly. I love his puppets, and for me, Conan's kind of same old thing, and I just like Craig Ferguson because he's off the hook. But he has artists on sometimes, and all those shows, and David Letterman, and you see these bands they have on, and I'm just sitting there going, who in the hell is that? Never heard of them, and 90% of them are all some young chick singing synth piano. That seems to be the new fashion, like all these young girls, and they're playing guitar poorly and singing poorly and kind of whining and lamenting about their boyfriend. And
well, your daughter is a pianist. You ought to get her out there and get her on the Craig Ferguson show or David Letterman.
I had that offer with Columbia back when she was 14.
Right.
They gave us an offer. It was Peter Noon. He was a singer in the Herman's Hermits.
Right.
And his daughter, I guess, was about 14 or 15. And they wanted to do like my daughter and her and do like put a band together. And I said, and it was for a really good amount of money. And I said, absolutely not. In fact, I figured that's because her life will be over. She'll end up like Courtney Love or something. I don't know. So didn't want to go there.
Sure.
Because, and then I think there's just smart girls like Avril Lavigne. She's like a high school dropout, and she's done really well. And seems to be focused and seems to have her shit together, as far as I know.
Right. Well,
So
Don.
go either way. My daughter's got too much Dokken in her. Yeah, give my 15-year-old a couple $100,000 and a new car and put her on the road, and oh shit, we're living all over.
Boy.
I'd have to be out there being the road manager with a baseball bat, busting people over the head,
Well, Don, did you get a chance to listen to the suggestions I had for a ballad disc?
Yeah, I like it. I'm not sure about the first song, "Letter to Home," because it's kind of a ballad, but it kind of isn't. It is, but it's kind of heavier. I don't know how do you point that song, "Letter to Home." I guess it's kind of a ballad. It's very Beatley.
Right.
But yeah, I think it'd be cool to put out 14 Dokken ballads of all our entire history from day one to now, and just all the ballads that people probably don't know about. They're also focused on Alone Again. And there was such great... It was interesting listening to it. I was like, oh, I remember that song. Oh, I remember that song. Oh, that was a good ballad. Oh, that was a good ballad. Because we've always put in 1 or 2 ballads on every album, and they're really good ballads. But they never saw the light of day, except for the hardcore fans. They never got on the radio because we're not in vogue. And we're not Bon Jovi, so you can't do it. So... If I just thought it might be, I should do a contest on the websites and say, yes, would you buy this album, or would it be boring? But I'd like to do it. But then again, like I said, you'd have to. Here, I've done a solo album that I finished 3 years ago, my Don Dokken solo album, and I couldn't get any label to take that record. So I guess, like actors, you get stereotyped.
Sure.
Sure.
You know, they're like, yeah, we love your album, Don. We love your album. We love your solo record. It's a little melancholy. It's a little mellow. It's not Dokken. And I'm like, it's a solo record. Didn't seem to bother Robert Plant and that chick.
Alison Krauss.
Alison Krauss.
That chick.
Hey, I love Robert Plant, man, but I'm sorry. You know what? If you got sleep problems, put that record on. You'll be snoring in 5 minutes. I love Robert Plant, but man, that album is boring, in my opinion. And it won a Grammy, and it sold 1 million copies, and I'm like, I don't get it at all. You guys, have you heard that record? Do you like it?
No, it's not my cup of tea.
Hate it.
It's just boring.
Yep.
Well, speaking of Robert Plant, Don, and I know you're a big Zeppelin and Beatles fan and stuff, and you know, of course, the diehard fans want their favorite bands to live forever.
Right.
What's your thoughts on Robert Plant finally giving in and actually doing the full-scale Zeppelin thing? You think he should do it, or do you think they should just leave well enough alone?
I think he should do it. One farewell, once and for all, you know. I think he should do it. I mean, I know he can't sing like he could back in the day, and that's a given. You know, he doesn't have the high voice anymore. I mean, good luck singing Black Dog and all that stuff, and just like me, I can't sing it, but you take creative license, do the best you can, and tune the guitar, bring the guitars down a little bit, and obviously, you know, they did one show in England with Foreigner, and it sold out in an hour.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the writing's on the wall. You know, I wouldn't have thought that Michael Jackson, after all his problems with all these lawsuits, and how he got so weird toward the end and chopped his nose off and did all this weird stuff, I thought his career was over, and he sold out 50 dates.
Right.
So it shows that, and that, like he said, that was going to be his last tour ever. Unfortunately, he was doing it to get himself out of debt. Who would have thought that Michael Jackson was broke?
Sure.
Kidding.
But they said the money he was going to make was going to basically, that was about how much he owed.
Shoot. Wow.
He was living way too high. Look at Elton John. Why is he back out there with Billy Joel?
Right.
And this guy who's had dozens of number one hits, and 5 years ago, Elton John's broke. It boggles the mind.
Yeah.
It is crazy.
We're talking about these guys made hundreds of millions of dollars. But I guess that's the way it goes. I always told Mick, I said, I don't have any regrets for breaking up Dokken in 89. We could have made another $10, $20 million. It just means everybody would have had bigger houses in foreclosure and more cars being repoed. That's all it would have meant.
True.
So you lost your 4-bedroom house. Then instead in 95, you would have lost your 10-bedroom house.
Right.
Because the problem, which I think has been inherent for the last 50 years, Elvis included, is that we're out there making music. We're not businessmen. We're artists. And the skanks and the scumbags and the accountants and the managers and the record companies, they're running the show, and no one's watching the fucking chicken coops, so to speak. And and all the foxes go in there, and you wake up one day, you think you're raising all these chickens, and you walk in, there's just one lame old chicken standing there.
And then Dokken blows it up in a commercial.
That's right. It's a good metaphor, isn't it? Our last chicken, let's just kill it. The Dokken reunion obviously would be financially probably very good for us. I mean, look, there's been bands that have internal problems. Motley Crue pulled it off. I don't think they're all a bunch of hug and kissing best friends. Poison's pulled it off year in, year out. There's they're not. I don't think they're all best friends. I mean, everybody has internal problems, but they put their differences aside and go out there and make a living, which is smart.
Sure.
But can we do it? Don't know. I don't know. We tried it in 95, like I've said a dozen times. We tried it in 95 again. After 5 years of breaking up, we got back together and made the worst record of our career.
What?
Dysfunctional.
No. Shadow Life.
Shadow Life, yeah.
I didn't like that record.
Yeah, that album does suck. Oof.
Yeah, it was makes a good coaster though. That's
my favorite record in the catalog is Dysfunctional though.
Dysfunctional I thought was great, but that was my second solo record.
Right.
I basically wrote that. It was going to be my second solo record. George came on board like a week before it was finished, you know. And it was a really good record, and I still had Q Prime, which is a great management company, and they were going to do it, and then they left, they dropped me, and George came back on board, and we had a huge deal in Columbia, and Columbia was totally behind us, and the stories about what happened with that record are horrific. I mean, we had a really good shot at a comeback. It was a great record in the catalog, and certain people in the band just wouldn't get on board. So then we stayed together and went to Sanctuary and did Shot of Life, which was a disaster. And that was the end of us.
Right.
So with all those memories, Mick and I are not jumping at the moon to get back in the same proximity. You know?
Right.
But I'm cool with it. You know, I told George I'm cool with it. You know, because it wouldn't be like George if you would play with Doc and it's going to be Lynch Mob.
Sure.
So we'll be in flying separately, separate airplanes, separate hotels. We could do it. But it's up to George, and George knows it, that it's up to him to talk to Mick.
Right.
Because apparently a lot of things went down in Lynch Mob that I wasn't around. I wasn't in the band. But a lot of bad blood ensued, just like it was in Dokken, for another 2 or 3 years with Lynch Mob, and Mick's got, you know, a bad taste in his mouth. So that's where that's at.
Sure. Well, when I saw you a few weeks ago, Don, I had mentioned to you that you know next year will be 25 years since Under Lock and Key came out. Any thoughts on doing that thing in its entirety next year, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, Queensryche did it. They did their Mindcrime tour.
Right.
I'd love to just do Under Lock and Key, the whole album. That's the show.
Sure.
I'd love to do that. And if we had the offer, I would do that. I'd take the chance. And there might be some fans disappointing, going, oh, yeah, but you're not playing this song, you're not playing that song. And, oh, well, you've had 1,100,000 times to see these songs.
Right.
I'd love to go out and do songs like Jaded Heart. And, let's see, just Under Lock and Key. Yeah, Jaded Heart was on that album, I think.
Yep.
And Will the Sunrise.
Yep.
Lost Behind the Wall, was that on the album?
No. That's on Back for the Attack.
No, you guys, I don't know. Anyway.
Don, would you like one of us to come
man.
with you to make sure you play the right tunes?
That's the problem. I've got that problem now on stage. I'll call out a song and go, we'd like to take you into the... And Mick's like, no. I'm like, what do you mean no? He's like, it's The Hunter. That's his third song now. Oh, yeah, right. We'd like to take you into The Hunter.
Sure.
You know, I got a little bit of that short-term senility coming on.
Yeah, that senior moment.
Yeah, I have the problem. Yeah, which is everybody gets them, but I'm just having more and more moments apparently. You know. Well, now when I see my girlfriend, you know, I have to always make sure I tell her that she has to wear a sticker. You know, it's got her name on her.
Right. well, that seems to be the popular thing to do. You know, obviously, Aerosmith did Toys in the Attic in its entirety, and Rat was doing Out of the Cellar, and of course Judas Priest with their British Steel, and I believe the Cult just did their whole Love release, and I mean, so it's sort of like a thing right now where these bands, nostalgic bands, are doing their entire CD, you know, in the concert.
I'd be totally down with that. I mean, I'm really, you know, I'll be honest with you, and sometimes I look so forward to doing This Fire every night off of Lightning Strikes Again because it's new.
Sure.
You know, I wish we were doing 3 songs off the new album. But these damn festivals we do and play, you know, you want us to play an hour. And I'm like, an hour? Hour and 15? I want to play 2 hours. It's too short.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really a big dilemma of, like, you know, what songs we do, what songs we don't do. So, of course, all the more obscure songs are the, you know, we do 2 Out of Fly, which was an unknown song, but it's a 10-minute song. So we have to drop that a lot of the times, which is, you know, John gets bummed because that's his vehicle to do his soloing. But I just like to do an album, like I said, on Rock and Key. I probably do it in the same sequence as the album is.
Sure. Well, that's the whole idea. You perform it from beginning to end.
It worked for Queensryche.
Hey, it worked for a lot of bands just the last couple years.
It was great with Judas Priest.
I'd be totally down for that. I don't want to do the same set anymore. I'm over it.
Yeah, I agree. I wish I could pick your set for you.
Yeah, I might take you up on that. Because I don't know what to play. I'd like to play more, you know, obscure songs.
Sure.
that weren't in a quote-unquote MTV video. It's like,
right.
Well, if it wasn't a video, we're not playing it. You know, look, we didn't do Dream Warriors for 5 tours, and we, like Queensryche, I remember I was so shocked when I did that tour with them acoustically, and they weren't doing Silent Lucidity. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. And it was your biggest hit.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked them why, and it was something to do because Chris DeGarmo wrote it. And I went, well, so what? You know? But they refused to play Silent Lucidity on that tour. And now they're doing it again.
Yeah, well, because they're doing the entire Empire release.
Oh. Moving down the road to the next record.
Right.
Right.
Well, then I guess, yeah, that's funny. One of them just called me last night and texted me and asked if I was going to this big debacle. Because I live literally 5 minutes from the Strip, but I guess they got the whole boulevard blocked off. It's like $40, $50 to walk to the gate. I don't know what's going on. And Ozzy was playing, which I would like to see, and Korn and all these bands, but I just wasn't up for it. I'm just not up for going out and seeing all the crazy people. Because, you know, Hollywood is having this big comeback. I don't know how you call it. It's kind of, when I go up the Strip now, it kind of reminds you of the 80s again.
Right.
It's the tattoos, the leather jackets, the purple hair, the mohawks, the chains to the nose and the lip. You know, it's the whole thing has come full circle, but just a new generation of younger kids.
Every 20 years, Don.
That's what they say, and you go to the Rainbow now, it's like everyone looks like a rock star. I mean, I don't know who's who. I know that's so-and-so, and so-and-so band, that's so-and-so. I go, who? I'm the old guy, you know.
Sure.
You know, the days of, it's a whole new generation, and look at this band, Steel Panther. I mean, they pack it out every Monday night, and all they're doing is 80s songs.
Right.
They're even playing in Japan with us.
Yeah, that's true. And then plus they got a new record out that's just like, you know, people are clamoring for that thing.
Yeah, they got a record out, and I'm like, okay. But here's a band that's making a living off of our songs, our hits, bands like us. And I thought it would last, you know, okay, it's a novelty. These young kids get to go hear Van Halen and Dokken and Poison and Kiss and whatever. And it's kind of a parody, a little bit of Spinal Tap in it, and it's a show. And I thought that they would last, I don't know, a year at the most. But those guys have been going strong for 3 years.
Yep.
And now they're even putting a record out, and everybody wants to go get it. My daughter, when she comes into town, she's 22, and time she drives down from Santa Cruz, she's like, Dad, can you get me in the guest list to go see Steel Panther? And I go, what? I thought you were into like Linkin Park and into like Avenged Sevenfold and Tool and stuff like that, but she likes to go and, you know, because it's just a big party.
Right.
So, and you go into that, see those guys play, it's all young chicks and dudes.
Right. It's true.
You know, ain't much. So, there's something to be said for all that, and I'm cool with it. And I think that'd be a good idea. We should go out and do Under Lock and Key this summer. Just do the damn record top to bottom.
Well, I'm down for that. Got my vote.
I'm down for it too. Yeah, that was a great record, and I'd love to do it, you know, and just let the chips fall where they may. If the fans dig it, God bless them. If they don't, that's fine, you know. But like you said, AC/DC, Iron Maiden did it.
Yeah.
Practically, they did all new songs and just threw in a couple hits at the end of the show.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, Don, I'll put it on the website. It'll be out there by tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. And tell Mark Tureen I said hi, and I can't wait to see him on tour. I don't know where that came from, man. I mean, I couldn't have been that drunk. I don't remember. I don't know anything. When you guys told me about that, I was like, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But those are managers. It could be not his fault. Managers tell their bands, their artists, they tell them what they want to hear to keep them, you know, under their management. And let's put it this way: the agent that's supposed to be putting this Lynch Mob Dokken thing together, I had Dave, my personal manager, email him to say, "Is this going down?" And the response was no. So George was telling me they're putting the tour together, you know, getting dates on hold, and the agent, he said, that's handling it, emailed me and said he had nothing to do with it. So I'm really confused. So that's when I went, you know what, guys? Let's just keep going like we're going. I'm just going to ignore all this stuff.
Wow.
I mean, if it would happen, it would happen. It's great. I'm sure George could talk to Mick and maybe work it out. I don't give a damn. who opens up for us. I don't care.
Right.
I thought it'd be a novelty to have George come on stage and do Mr. Scary.
Sure. Why not?
Don, do you think that George just says it and he's trying to convince himself that, like if he says it enough times it'll happen?
Well, I thought that on the reunion tour. I mean, he was saying we're going to do it. He didn't say maybe. I remember him saying we are going to do it. And I'm like, no one's talked to me about it.
So do you think it's sort of what you think about, you bring about type of thing?
Maybe went to that seminar, that guy in Hawaii, that Tony Robbins seminar, maybe. You go to too many of those Tony Robbins seminars about, just think it and wish it and it'll happen.
Right.
Bingo.
So I'm not against it. That's my bottom line as far as George and I go. I don't care about Lynch Mob playing with us. That'd be fine with me. Might be a fun to have him come on stage and do a couple of Dokken songs. But the bottom line is, I said, okay, talk to Mick, and I haven't heard boo from anybody about that, about offers. We're getting offers as Dokken to go out in October, November. And I kind of put them on hold, but now this whole Lynch Mob thing, or was it the Bullet Boys? I can't remember. I haven't heard boo about it, so we're just going to go forward and start booking shows.
Sure.
This business is so crazy. It's so, and it's kind of sad. I see bands that were so big, and everybody's scrambling, and they're kind of hurting the franchise because, a promoter comes to you, and let's say, and goes, hey, we want Dokken. And I tell them how much. And then they threw the same offer at Great White and Rat and Warrant and whoever. And those bands go, we'll do it for less. So they take that band. And then the next time they do it for even less. And pretty soon these bands are like lowering and lowering. Their prices are going down and down and down and down and down, where I'm not even in the running. Because you know how lazy I am, man. I'm a lazy bastard, man. I got my price, and that's just the way it is. And right. I'm not, it's really hard to drag me out of my house, just to make a couple $1,000 bucks.
Sure.
I'm not into it. I just not, So, but these bands, I understand they've got house payments and kids and school and car payments and yada yada yada, and you got to pay the bills. So, you throw your money out there, and they say no, we'll give you this much, and a lot of these bands go, okay, better than nothing. Yeah. But then that number sticks.
Right.
And that price becomes the guideline. Well, I can get, I heard two performers tell me, just 2 weeks ago, I told him how much to play, and he goes, well, we can get so-and-so, and we can get 2 bands for the price of that. And I said, do it.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Because I don't play for free.
Right.
Well, I don't blame you, Don. That is ridiculous.
I'm holding my ground.
Yeah, sure.
It's not a 1-hour show. It's a 3 days of work. It's a travel day, plane flights, hotels, equipment, gear for the show, another hotel, get up in the morning, get on a plane, fly back home. It's 3 days out of your life, 4 days. And I'm like, no, it's not worth it to me.
Right.
I'd rather just stay home, And I'm really, really, really grateful that I'm in a financial position to say no.
Sure.
But a lot of these bands, I understand, they got to make a living, they got to pay the rent. And like I said, we've all sold millions of records these days, bands. You'd be surprised at how some of these bands don't have as much money as you think they would. I was surprised.
Sure.
But then again, you got the David Coverdales. He's got more. He lives like a king.
Mm-hmm.
And I know why. He busts everybody's balls.
Well, dude, you live somewhere near Gene Simmons' palace. How did he do it?
He was in this little unknown band called Kiss.
Yeah, I know that, but I mean, what did he do differently than everybody else?
I think that's real simple. He's a businessman. Wasn't he a math teacher before he was in Kiss?
I think so, yeah.
He was a math teacher. I when I went to Gene's house a couple of years ago for Thanksgiving, and after we ate, and Shannon was cleaning up, and the kids were off running around, and Gene and I sat in his office for a couple hours, and Gene showed me what he was working on, and he had about 6 projects in the works.
Okay.
6. I was shocked. He had 2 bands he just picked up. He's working on his NASCAR thing. He was working on a television channel called something, Fuck You TV or something like that. and he showed me the commercial, and he had all these famous people, and it was called No Good TV. That's what it was called.
Nice.
And he was working on that, and I was going, wow, man, he's got a lot of stuff in the fire. Then it was like a movie. Then he whipped out this like blueprint, and a blueprint, and it was houses in like Korea where there was swampland. It's like, the old joke about swampland in Florida.
Yeah.
And apparently there was this land, and it was a multi-conglomerate, collaboration he was involved with, where they're going to buy this kind of marshland kind of thing, and they're going to build like 250 homes in Korea in this like funky, marshlands and houses on stilts or something. And I was like, wow. And then he whips out his my father the rock star cartoon. My dad the rock star. That's his creation.
Right.
I mean, this guy's got something going on all the time. But that's Gene. He is a businessman, and he's addicted, I think, to the rush. And he's smart. I think he does all these projects, but he doesn't use his own money. He gets everybody else put the money in, which is smart. He gets all these people to invest in all these schemes, and some work, some don't, and uses his name and his power and his clout and his KISS history. And, look at his merchandise: condoms, coffins, pinball machines, dolls, lunchboxes, Halloween masks. I think he told me, we were talking about Halloween, like in Halloween masks. I think back in the 70s, late 70s and 80s, they were making something like, I don't know, like $10 million in Halloween costumes.
Jeez.
And I thought, I remember that. There was Ace, there was the cat, and there was Gene, and there was Paul, and remember all the kids around looking like Kiss.
Yep.
Well, one of our people in the chat room, Don, wants to know if Gene has pay toilets in his house.
Don't say that, because if Gene hears about that, he's going to do it. I remember they were talking about something, because that was a couple years ago before Nick was driving, and Nick said to me, when we get in trouble, it's not time out, or we don't get yelled at about, you're grounded. Gene's threat was always, knock it off or I'm cutting you out of the will. So I go, that's an interesting threat. So Gene's really into money, and he's way up front about it. Look at his show. He says, he's all about the money.
Right.
But I don't believe, and I never ever will believe, that the person that has the most marbles when they dies wins. I don't believe it.
Right.
When you die and I die, you got 1 marble, I got 10. We're still on even turf, man. I mean, the person with the most marbles doesn't win. I don't believe it. It's not true. It doesn't matter.
Right.
While we're here, I guess it matters. But I don't. Unless you're Paul McCartney, I don't think he's worrying about starting up 10 other projects. He's Paul McCartney, and that's his focus, and that's what he is. He's a Beatle. But that we're talking about one band out of a million.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't really care. I'm not really an entrepreneur, and I openly admit that I'm a terrible businessman, and I'm just a musician. I am full-on musician. All I think about is music, music, music. I have to force myself when my AAA card's expiring. I got to sit down and write a check and renew my towing card. It's a lot of work. You got to get the check out. Then I got to find a pen. I can't find a pen anywhere. Then they have a stamp, and then you got to go up to the store and find a stamp, and so I just don't do it. I just let it lapse. That's the way I am. I've always been like that, and that's why I had accountants all my life. But you got to watch out for accountants.
Right.
These guys went to school to learn how to fix numbers.
Sure.
And I'm not. I mean, I could tell you, I got a million stories. If I ever do my autobiography, boy, I can't do it. Everybody goes, you should do an autobiography like Nikki Sixx did, and everybody. And I said, no, because everybody thinks it's fiction. I mean, everybody's got their stories about junkies and ODing and money and car accidents and da-da-da-da. And I'm like, no, if I told the Dokken story, people just go, can't be true.
Well, actually, Chris has an offer for you.
I do?
Okay.
Oh, yeah, I would absolutely write it. Anytime you're ready, Don, I will absolutely write that book for you.
Yeah, so many people keep saying, Don, why don't you take a tape recorder, and every time a story or a memory pops in your head, just click it onto your little handheld recorder and accrue about 20 hours of stories of what happened and put it into a book. Because there's some shit that happened in Dokken that way, way, way outdoes a lot of these other bands. I've read some of these books, and I'm like, nothing. Except our stuff was more twisted and out there, and I keep waiting because of YouTube. I'm waiting any day now. I'm waiting for all that film footage that we made in the 80s in the back of the bus. I know it's floating around. I destroyed most of it, but I know a couple of tapes got away from us, from the drivers, because I've had a few bands say, hey, I saw your back of the bus Productions tape. And I went, you did? So I erased all that stuff. But what were we thinking to have hidden cameras in the back of the bus? It was like a reality show before there was reality shows.
Jesus.
And we had, I don't know, about 8-10 hours of footage of back of the bus antics. And, but it's out there floating around somewhere. God forbid it ends up on the internet.
Nice.
Because the thing is now, these women are all 40. You know, they're school teachers, they're married, got 2 kids, and all of a sudden somebody's going to say, Mommy, look, that looks like you, Mommy.
Nice.
Jeez.
Well,
Mommy, why are you licking that guy's boot? Because it was dirty. You know, I mean, there was so much. We had this thing we were doing. We'd always we'd have girls come backstage and say that we're getting ready to do another video. That was, I'm sure a lot of bands did that, and that we were auditioning girls to be in our next video. And we get them in the dressing room and take them off into the bathroom and, okay, look at the camera, you know, turn around, all right, hike up the skirt a little, you know, and it progressed to the point they were naked. You know, because, well, you know, you're going to be in a bathing suit, we're filming on the beach, well, you know, how's your body look? And we had hours of that. Shame on us. Shame on us. But, you know, your testosterone's peaking in your 20s and 30s. So, and I don't know what happened to that footage. And all that stuff's floating around out in the universe. And now with the YouTube and the internet, I just keep waiting for the phone call to go, dude, I just saw, you know, a video of you and 2 chicks in the back of the bus, and you guys are going off. And I'm going to go, oh, shit. Thank God my kids are over 21, they'll get it. It's out there somewhere, but I probably will. That's probably my next project. We're going to do this, finish up this Greatest Hits album because it's a thorn in my side. And we did a song called Bus Stop by the Hollies remake. That came out really killer. And we did a really obscure song called Lies by a band that was called the Knickerbockers. They were kind of a Beatles copy band. And that was a cool song. It goes, lies, someday you're going to be sorry. Don't know when just yet. Lies, lies, you're always going to bring me down. It's a really cool Beatle-y kind of song, and I had Mick sing it. And that came out really cool. And we got 2 originals, 2 new songs. So at least with this Greatest Hits album, it's not the same old shit. We got 2 new songs on there and 2 cover songs from some classic some British bands. So it's a good record.
Cool.
That's the problem. You know, I could have had this record done a year ago, but I'm picky. It's got to be perfect. It's got to be awesome. It's got to be over the top. And and everybody telling me let it go, and I'm trying. I'm really trying to just say, okay, it's good enough. It's good enough. It's good enough. I just had Micah Wagner mix 2 of the songs. He just did Dream Warriors and In My Dreams. And that was kind of fun. Here Micah was involved doing those. He did those songs in the 80s, and I had him mix these new songs. And that was fun. And Michael laughed too. He said, I had listened to the original versions to get a sense of how the song was done originally. And I said, don't do that. And he goes, man, were we reverb crazy or what? I said, yeah, we loved our reverb, didn't we?
Yeah, there was a lot of reverb on all those old recordings.
Jesus criminy, man. like, buy the new Dokken album, recorded in the bottom of a swimming pool.
Sure.
It's just the snare drum, boosh.
Inside of
it's like, man, oh man, there's a lot of reverb on these songs.
Inside of an old blimp hanger.
God, yeah, it's what it sounds like, it's like we cut the album in a blimp hanger. And I listened to the old tracks, but I forgot, because that's the way it was, you know? And I'm like, Jesus criminy, man, everything's just swimming in an ocean of toys and effects and stuff and echoes, and the drums always have the same snare drum sound, the one that every band on the planet used, the Lindrum sampled snare drum. And so it was kind of funny to go back and listen to the original versions. And I said, Michael, for God's sakes, don't mix the songs like they were back in the 80s. You know, let's have some bass on these records for a change. Remember, back in the day, it was just vocals and guitar.
Nice.
You know, there's no bass, no drums. It was all floating around the background, you know. Def Leppard, I blame them. Mutt Lange, they started all that.
Yeah, that's true.
Those bastards. They started the whole reverb thing.
Yeah. Well, Don,
I'm disgusted now, and well, it was good talking to you guys, and now I realize, after doing this new record, I realize why all these young girls are so popular and doing all these records, because you don't have to have talent anymore.
Right.
It doesn't matter if you know how to sing. It doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter how crappy you are as a singer. All you have to do is go in the studio, and they have these new software programs called Auto-Tune and Melodyne, and you could sing like an idiot. And you just take your vocals, run it through that program, and you're perfectly in tune.
Right.
It's disgusting. All the years of practicing my vocals and all the Dokken albums of In My Dreams, 16 tracks of backing vocals, all perfectly sang, perfect, every part. Hours and hours and hours and hours spent doing those things, nailing them, making them absolutely perfect. And now you get this 15-year-old kid comes in and goes, baby, baby, I love you. And, you know, they run to the machine, and she sounds like Mariah Carey.
Right.
You don't need any talent. So that's why, with all this new software, they just go out and find themselves a Miley Cyrus and stick them in the studio, and the engineer makes them sound good. It's disgusting. Rock bands, too. They're doing it, too. These singers can't sing. They just run through all this software, so I'm obviously old school, and that's the way it is. A couple times my engineer said, you're not hitting that note, you keep hitting a little bit flat, Don. I can fix it in 2 seconds in the auto-tune. I said, nope, I'll get it. Because I'm stubborn as shit, you know me.
Well, Don, before we let you go, we've got some listeners who listen religiously over in Australia. And has Dokken ever played in Australia?
No, I met some musicians that are here in L.A. from Australia that done a couple records, and they're over here looking for a publishing deal, and they said, how come you guys have never played Australia? And it was just kind of an act of God. Like 3 times we were supposed to go. Once on the AC/DC tour, Back in Black. We were supposed to go on the Aerosmith tour. Didn't happen. We ended up going to Europe. And then we were supposed to go, actually about a year ago, we were supposed to go to Australia and do 4 shows, in Australia to Japan with, I think it was Whitesnake, I can't remember who, or Scorpions, or one of those bands. Didn't happen. Last minute, something happened. So we've never played Australia. It's far away. I would go for free. Just give me a hotel room, and as long as somebody cooks me some shrimp on the Barbie, I'll go. and let me hump on alligator, I'm in. You know.
Well, they're in the chat room saying, well, it's about time you come over because we've never seen Dokken.
Well, you tell them to just have someone call me. Buy me a plane ticket, get us some equipment, a drum set and some amps, give us a place to sleep, and we'll come.
Well, there you go. So
we'll do it just for fun, just so I can have a little vacation. It's all about vacationing now.
Nice.
Well, they heard you, so they're going to get to work on it.
All right, my brothers.
All right, Don. Well, you guys got a lot of good things happening. You got the greatest hits coming out when you finish it. Got
the greatest ballad.
You got the big commercial out there that's making a lot of noise, and you got the Japan tour, and you guys doing a lot of good things. Who would ever thought you lasted this long?
Yeah, who would have thought at 35 years old I'd be doing so well? Yeah, that's the ticket.
Yeah.
You guys, I'm grateful. And I went through my things, and like I always tell people, the one thing I hear the most on the road now, which I have to always laugh when I sign autographs, and I'll sit there and sign autographs for a couple hours, and people say, well, you know, they're standing there all back in the back, sheepishly with their cell phone cameras, and I'm like, and I'll say, what's the matter? And they'll go, well, we wanted to, well, could we have a picture? And I'll go, well, of course, no problem. Why? Well, we were really afraid to ask you because there's a lot of things on the internet that said that you're really, you know, an asshole and you're a prima donna and you're mean. And I'm like, I'm not going to bite you. You can do whatever you want. I don't know where that came from. You know, I always said, and I've told you a million times, Wendell, we've been friends a long time.
Yep.
I've known now Chris now a long time. And I said, yeah, even my kids say, God, Dad, it's about a 50-50 on the internet. Either people love you or they hate you.
Yeah, that's true, and I will attest. I've been hanging out with you for about 14 years now, and I've never once seen you deny anyone an autograph or a picture ever.
No, and people say I do that, and I go, they're getting me confused with some other Don Dokken.
Yeah, because I've never seen
grateful.
I've never seen you deny anyone.
I mean, come on, how many times have I been like, you and I are walking through the snow to your car after a gig, and it's like 20 below zero, and it's freezing, and some guy will stop me or a girl and go, can I have an autograph? And I'm sitting there shivering, trying not to lose my voice, and I say, yeah, sure, no problem. And they whip out 10 albums. And I go, shit! You know, I hate when they do that, though. They go, will you sign an autograph? I go, sure. Now they whip out every album Dokken ever did, so now I'm committed. But I don't just go, screw you, I'm just going to do one, I got to go.
Yeah.
Because I know where my bread is buttered.
Right.
And without our fans, we got nada. We got nothing.
Sure.
And but yeah, on the internet, people have their opinions of me and, of who I am and who I'm not, and I always say the same thing. I think the people that talk shit are the ones that never met me.
Well, I agree,
and I
Don.
don't really care. I don't really care. My friends are my friends, and all I care about is my friends.
Well, Don, this little time with you for the last hour and a half has made up for the year and a half you haven't been on the show. So.
Yeah, well, I'd rather be talking to you guys. Otherwise, I'd be 2 miles down the street on Sunset watching the madness. So I'm glad. I hit out. Wait for you guys to call.
Sure, excellent. All right, Don.
You kept me out of trouble, and you kept me out of getting arrested, and you kept me out of God knows, and no Bertha in the morning.
All right, Don. Well, congratulations on the commercial. Wait for the new greatest hits to come out with the extra bonus tracks, and good luck going to Japan.
And tell your listeners that if they want to see all 3 versions of the Dokken commercial, they're all on the Dokken MySpace and Dokken.net.
Right. All right, Don.
Guys.
Well, I'll let you pick a closing song from your catalog here. You got something you want me to play?
From my catalog?
Do you need us to tell you what those songs are so you can pick one?
Yeah, what album was on? Well, let's pick something off the hook. I liked Inside Looking Out.
Oh, yeah, I like that, too.
That's just a cool song.
Sure.
Now, don't ask me what album it's on.
It's on Dysfunctional. First song on Dysfunctional.
Is it really?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was on Long Way Home.
Nope, first song on Dysfunctional.
I gotta get those pills advertised on TV about increase your memory.
Hell, you used it as the opening song track for the 1995 Live in Japan DVD.
Really?
Yeah.
Man, you're scaring me.
Yep.
I wonder why it's taking me 20 minutes to find where the key goes in the car every morning.
All right, Don. Well, we're going to let you go and do what you got to do, and we'll play this Inside Looking Out. And
I like that song. I think the melody's really cool, and the double bass. It's just a real smooth, melodic. It's just fun,
I agree.
And I like the fact that I stepped out on the lyrics. Painted pictures in a room of glass,
right? Looking
through the sky above. It's got that little Beatley thing. It was fun.
Sure.
Yeah, that was good times because Jeff was a Beatle freak, and so was Mick, and so am I. So you can really hear when you play the song right now, you'll hear all the Beatles in it.
Excellent.
You guys take care. Stay out of trouble.
All right,
and,
Don.
I will see you on the flip side.
All right, we'll talk soon.
Bye, Chris. Bye.
All right, bye.
All right. Bye, Neely.
Thanks for checking out the Best of the Classic Metal Show. You can tune into the Classic Metal Show live every Saturday night from 9 p.m. to 3 a.m. Eastern, exclusively at www.theclassicmetalshow.com.
The Classic Metal Show.